Welcome back.
Yay! Episode 4. Is this 4?
4 or 5.
Yeah.
I think it might be 5, actually.
I think it might be 5. I think you're
It is
right.
5. Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah. So tell the people, Corey, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about habits and routines,
Mhm, mhm,
good
mhm.
ones and bad ones,
Thank you
mind
for
you.
yeah. When I was first thinking about habits and routines, because I'm a Googler, I'm like the queen of Googling. And per Google, it says a habit is an impulse to do a behavior with very little conscious thought. So it's kind of like an automatic, you just do it kind of thing. A routine then is simply like a series of those behaviors or habits repeated over time. And you mentioned that habits can be positive and negative. And I think, especially in the world of ag teaching, real quick, those bad habits start accelerating. They can turn into really, really negative routines that just aren't helpful or aren't self-serving, and not in a selfish way, but self-serving as in like helping you be your best self. And at the same time, the best habits we have, the things that help us be that better person, those can fall away real fast when you stop doing them. Um, what would you say? This might be fun. When you think about your time in ag teaching, and maybe even when you think about it now, what would you say are some of the worst habits that we have as ag teachers?
Oh, where do I start? Um, Sodas in the afternoon, a
Yeah.
little caffeine boost. I would say if you did a poll or a survey on all 7 or 800 ag teachers and just in the state of California, I mean, maybe nationwide, if you did a poll on them, I'd say probably 80% of them are using, at least, are using soda as a caffeine boost after lunch to just try to get them over that little 3 o'clock, you know, what do they call that? I forget what it's called when you crash,
Yeah.
right?
Afternoon slump.
Yep. So yeah, mid afternoon slump. That's what it is. So I would say that's a big one. Um, This other one is probably not so much of a habit as it is more of just a misconception, but staying late because everybody else is there late. Um, and you form this habit of, well, I just got to do one more thing. I just got to do one more thing. I just got to do one more thing. Or maybe you're just standing there not doing anything because you see other people are still there and you don't want to be look like the first one to leave, right? Um, that's also can be, in my opinion, a habit because if you do that to your point, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, throughout a month span, right? Now you're more, you're going to do that more often. It
Yep.
just becomes a habit in your life. And now you're staying till 7 o'clock every night. Well, why? I mean, don't you have things to do at home or things that you could take care of in the meantime? But those are two that stick out to me for sure. What about you? What are you thinking?
One of the first ones that came to my mind, and this could be positive or negative, but I think collectively it can go negative, even where you choose to sit. And it's kind of that whole like when kids walk into a classroom, if you let them create their own seating chart, there's certain kids that are going to gravitate towards like front center because they don't want to miss out on anything. They don't want to get in trouble, right? They just like, I'm ready. And then there's the kids that are going to fight tooth and nail to have the seat absolutely closest to the door. And when I think back to regional meetings, conferences, you could, I could tell you exactly where certain departments sat, no matter what the venue was. They were in the exact same spot. And I mean, I'm judging, but I'm not judging. I think if you dig deeper into that, there's a reason certain people sit where they do. And I think sometimes it's because we want to be seen. We want that like check mark box, like we're here, here we are, like do your thing, we're getting credit for being here. For others, I think it can go deeper into how they feel about how welcome they are or aren't, whether or not their thoughts or input are going to be invited or listened to. And if not, they don't need to be sitting that close because you just don't really care that much about them anyway, because you've already made a decision about the quality of the content that they're going to be bringing forward. If I'm being totally honest, that was the first one that came to mind. Um, you know, I'm a fairly outgoing person and I usually gravitate towards being as close as possible because I have FOMO real bad and I don't want to miss out on anything. So the closer I am, like when Dr. Adolph Brown came and was the keynote speaker at one of our summer conferences, I've seen him speak before and I knew he was going to have that dance activity. And I was super prego with Georgia at the time. I was just waiting. I was like, I was already like jiving in my chair, like, call on me, please. This is gonna be so great. He didn't on purpose, which was fine. I got a picture with him afterwards anyway.
Was he the guy that was calling people out when they would go to the bathroom? He's like, one or two, one
Yeah,
or two. And
yeah,
they're like, what are you talking about, dude?
so good.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember him.
yeah. So where we sit, I think how we show up at those types of events, that becomes habitual or routine. And oh God, when you said the thing about the afternoon slump, guilty, guilty, guilty. The amount of, sweet Jesus, the amount of Coca-Cola that I was putting in my body is just unreal.
Mhm.
And even my very first year of teaching, when I was at Lodi High School, we started, holy Jesus, mind you, I lived in West Sacramento at the time, which was a 45-minute drive on a good day to Lodi, where the school was. So I was leaving my house at like, I don't know, 6 so that I could get to school on time. And right as we started with silent sustained reading at 7:20. And I had a shared pod with my teaching partner. It was Jessa Lee at the time. And we had a refrigerator and we would take turns going to Costco buying Diet Cokes. 7:20, I would sneak in there, pull my can out. The echo, because the kids were so passed out tired, like pretend reading. You could hear the crack open of my can from like anywhere in the pod, and she would just like lurch her head into the Georgiam, and she's like, "Girl, it's only 7:20." I'm like, "I know, but this needs to happen right now because I don't."
Breakfast of champions.
Yeah. Oh man, that caffeine's a big one though. Yeah, I would agree with you. I would say the caffeine piece. I would say also just that bad habit of, and even if we've had negative experiences before or felt unwelcome before, we don't need anybody's permission to dictate like how we show up, where we sit, it might be uncomfortable. They may not like it. You might not like it at first either, but to just keep going to the same place and keep retreating farther back. I don't know. I think that's just kind of like giving our power away a little bit.
Sure. And to piggyback off that whole like kind of where people sit at different events and whatnot. And this one, again, this probably isn't going to sit well with people, but I think this is a good point. And I am as guilty as anybody in this, but one of the most contagious things is gossip. And
Mm.
it arguably could become a habit, right? So, when you go to one of those events, for example, and you get around people who are, oh, did you hear what so and so did? And especially like the region that I taught in for my career, they did herd book, and herd book was, it was fun. I thought it was fun. Some people took it a little bit more personally,
Mm.
but holy shit, I mean, sometimes it would turn into like some people took it super personally, and then other people would be like, oh my god, I can't believe they did that. And just kind of that, just gossip, like, holy crap, like, who cares, like, just kind of mind your business. But again, I was just as guilty as anybody else about being one of those shit talkers. And when you hang around those type of people, you develop those kind of habits. And so
Oh
that's
man.
that's another one.
There's something, I don't know who said it originally, so I can't credit the right person, but something to the effect of, you are the sum total of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And
Correct.
so to your point, if the majority of people you're gravitating towards or talking with at some of those events, if the majority of those 5 people are talking shit about other programs, or I can't believe she wore those boots with those crazy LuLaRoe leggings or whatever, been part of some of those conversations before,
Mhm.
like it's so not helpful, right? And it doesn't mean, don't get me wrong, there I was in an airport once, recently, and as we're exiting the plane, there's a woman sitting facing the windows where you could see planes, like, landing and taking off and stuff, and, let's just say the lower half of her garments were not fully on her body, and so we all kinda took notice. We had a little chuckle, like, "Oh my god, like, are we seeing that correctly? Like, what is happening right now?" That's different than on a regular basis, like, selecting people or groups that we identify as being, because what we're really saying is, look at what you're doing, wearing, saying, not doing, not saying, I or we are better than you, and here's why.
Mhm.
And it doesn't leave room for growth. It doesn't leave room for elevating a profession. And it doesn't mean, like, we're not perfect. We're gonna say dumb stuff. You and I are probably, if we haven't already, going to piss some people off just because we're having conversations. Uh,
Mhm.
that's, I think, inherent in the human experience. But to know that there are behaviors that we habitually do that aren't constructive, like, what's the point? Right?
Well,
Like,
so part of that is, and this was one of my mentality, or like kind of my mantra as a teacher, which is, you have different types of students, but if you wanted to categorize them, you have your top-notch students, the ones that sit in the front row, and
sure.
those kids they're probably going to do the homework. If you give homework, right, they're going to pay attention, they're going to be engaged, they're going to answer questions, they're going to out do well in the class.
Yeah.
Then you have some mid-tier students that are, you know some days they're going to try, some days they're not. That's just kind of their mentality. And then you have the students that just, some of them don't want to be there.
Yeah.
And my mantra as a teacher, because it's really easy to get focused on, and I'm going down a rabbit hole, but bear with me, I bring it full circle. So
Yeah.
the kids that are, we have a tendency to focus on the kids that are good kids because they're answering the questions, they're engaged. It's, they make it fun and make it feel like we're like
I'm
serving our
doing a good
purpose.
job because you're behaving yourself.
Exactly. So my mentality was, those kids are going to succeed in, most of those kids are going to succeed in anything that they do in life. Straight up. They're just, they're wired that way, or they're conditioned that way. And then you got the middle kids. They can kind of go either way, but most of them are probably going to, if they have a good experience, are going to shift towards being a better student. And then you have the kids that don't want to be there. And my challenge for them was to get them on this hypothetical fence. So if you have a fence, you have your good students over here, you have your poor performing students over here. If I could get the poor performing students onto the fence and get them aware that they could make better decisions, better choices, they could choose a different life, and it was theirs to choose, not mine. But if
Yeah.
I could at least articulate that to them and get them thinking, then I gave them a chance. Now they have an opportunity
Right.
to make the right decisions in life, or better decisions in life, right? The same is true with the habits. A lot of these people that are probably gossiping don't even realize they're gossiping anymore. So if I get anything out of this, if we get anything out of relaying this message to a community of ag teachers, former ag teachers, up and coming ag teachers, at least if they think about it, and if they listen to this, if they think, if I can get them to think about it, then they have an opportunity to maybe do something a little bit different, to make an adjustment there, and make a better decision than the alternative.
I love that fence analogy. And then, because it's like, once you're on top of the fence, you could teeter either way,
Either
right?
way.
So little effort at that point to then just make it to the other side. That's
Yep.
good. Okay, so let's give credit where credit's due. What would you say are some of the best habits that ag teachers have?
Sharing. I mean, they didn't get into this industry to screw up kids' lives. I used to joke with my students. I'm like when they would bitch about, why did you give me a 50% on this? And I'm like, do you really think I spent all this time in college and worked my ass off to get into this seat and be in this profession to screw kids over. Like, that's not what I'm here to do, dude. I'm here to help you. I'm here to teach you something, life skills, mechanic skills, agricultural skills, whatever skills that I have to available to teach you. That's what I got into this for. And so I don't think I've ever met an ag teacher that doesn't at least care a little bit, right? They didn't just get into this to do that. So that's one of the great habits and one of the things that I loved most about the profession was, and the people in the profession, is they all care in some capacity, and they want to do what's right for their students. They want to do what's right for their department, their community. Do they always do that? Some of them more so than not. But I think that's by far the best habit. Um, I had another one and I forgot what it was, but I want to hear what yours are.
Yeah. Um, along that same vein with caring, one of and I don't know if it's a habit. I think it can show up as a habit, but this underlying, I think, superpower really is that when we, and I'm saying we, because like we come, even though we're not in it now, like we come from the community, right?
Mhm.
When we want to, we show up with such a force and unity that there is no other entity that can stop ag ed from doing what it does best, which is provide opportunities for students to be successful. I've seen it from the time I have memories when I was in high school, speaking at school board meetings when they were trying to limit our funding because there was a whole bunch of, oh man, drama in the small town of Galt, let me just tell you, okay? But there was just a bunch of political interplay happening locally, and they were trying to limit things that our program could do. And I was actually just a couple days post one of my surgeries. They rolled me in a wheelchair, and then I stood up and gave my little spiel in front of the school board president at the time. Not a fan of that individual, but that's neither here nor there. Let's just say they did not succeed in what they were trying to do. I think, maybe my hobbling might have like helped seal the deal a little bit, but just as a student, I saw the impact, right, of when you decide to really link arms and really manifest the energy and the intention followed up with taking action towards the thing you care most about. I mean, it's remarkable. I almost don't know if I could think of another professional group or organization that does it quite as well as Ag Ed. Um, that's the first thing that comes to mind. The number of times we've had to fight for funding, the number of times we've had Blue Jackets show up in droves at the state capitol. Even on a local basis, the way that I saw programs and communities transform during the pandemic, post pandemic, how we continued to evolve and elevate some things. The capacity for it is there. I think it's phenomenal. But for how amazing that piece is, it also then still shocks me that like it's this juxtaposition of on a day-to-day basis, sometimes we would have the absolute worst habits imaginable, but then still have this propensity to like make such a freaking difference, It's
Well,
interesting.
and that, I mean, to piggyback off of yours,
Mhm.
the way that people band together, and I mean, there's always unfortunate circumstances and in any entity, right? But if somebody comes down ill or loses a loved one or anything like that, I mean, I get chills talking about this, but just being in a regional meeting when they ask for donations or just some sympathy or prayers towards that family, people the people in this profession, They
Yes.
band together, and every single person in there's heart's touched and reaches out and feels for the person or family that's going through that. And that
Right.
was one of the most amazing parts of this organization was that piece, for me. Just knowing that, if something ever had happened to me or my family, that those people were going to, be there and be supportive and help, not just financially, but with their kind words and just their loving hearts.
Hmm. Hands down. Totally agree. When you reflect back on your time in ag ed, and you could take this question one of two ways, but was there a habit that changed the game for you? Either was there a habit that caused you to turn away, or in this last, few years, was there a habit that you've developed that has changed the game for you?
There's two. Um, so when I had to get my hypothetical but literal shit together, and had to look in the mirror and didn't like who I was,
Yeah.
the first thing I started doing, and the first thing I knew I had control over, there's a book on this. I have not read it, but I have heard about it. I started making my bed. Um,
So
if you know me, you know that I am one of the laziest people ever, and it takes a lot of energy to be able to form habit. I'm somewhat disciplined,
mhm.
but high school Corey, I don't think he ever made his bed. Like ever. College Corey never made his bed. But once I decided to make an adjustment in my life and put my foot in the ground and pivot, uh, making my bed was one thing that took 10 seconds in the morning that I knew I could control. And
Yeah.
knowing that you can control something so small allows you to understand that you can control other things in your life. Because at the end of the day, depending on, there's a religious aspect to it too, right? Where, well, God, it's God willing. Well, I disagree to some extent, because I really feel that you have more control than you believe or are led to believe or conditioned to believe. So you can do, I mean, we talk about this all the time. This is kind of your message on Facebook and Instagram as well as mine. It's like, this is in your control. If you want to get fit, this is in your control.
Mhm.
Excuse me. For me, that started with making my bed. And from there, it just snowballed into other things. After a month of doing that, I'm like, well, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that. And from there, I've developed a list of good habits that I do currently today. So making my bed was one. That was the one that kickstarted it all. Excuse me. The second one, and I think this is probably the most important one that I do, and this is fucking weird, but I pray in the shower. I am not a religious man. I feel like I'm a spiritual man, and if you need more information on that, call me, text me. I'd be happy to explain. I'm not going to explain that here, but after I take my shower in the morning, and then after I take my shower at night, I literally get down on one knee and I thank God, or the entity that oversees us, the creator, for giving me another opportunity, for keeping the people that I love safe, happy, and healthy, for blessing me with health, for blessing me with, just all of the attributes that I have: courage, confidence, discipline, empathy. Um, it's incredible on how that gratitude piece through prayer, and I wrote a blog post about this a while back, how that has transformed my life. Because the things that I do now, I'm starting to become the person of the if this makes sense, I'm starting to become the person that I thank God for making me.
Yeah.
And from there, I just really feel like there's a God dang it, there's a nuance to it of just me becoming who I am through that gratitude piece. I'm not asking him for things all the time. I'm asking him to keep people safe and healthy, right? But I'm not, hey God, if you just let me make $1 million or win the lottery, like, no,
Yeah.
fuck that. We have different conversations, and it's all gratitude. And that has truly made my days better, my nights better. It's just it's transformed my mindset. I've done it for about almost 2 years now,
Huh.
and it's
So
a different.
follow-up question, because I'm so curious. Why why the shower for that habit in particular? Because other people listening are probably like, oh, Cory, like you just kneel by your bed, like it doesn't have to be in the shower. For you, is it the because in order, and we'll get into this later, but in order to build a habit, like there has to be some type of triggering activity that cues your brain to do it. For you, is it the fact that like shower in the morning, shower at night, starting the day with gratitude, ending the day with gratitude? Can you speak to that piece? Like what made you choose that to be like the anchor point for you?
So, I mean, we all have busy lives. I now have a 4-month-old child and a wife that spends 99% of her time with that child. And so, um, when I'm in the shower, that's the piece that it's just kind of me and me. And I can kind of get out of my own head. I can kneel down, I can close my eyes, and the warm water feels good.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the cold water habit later, but um,
Good.
it's just a way to isolate myself because my brain doesn't shut off well. I'm not a good meditator. It's something I definitely want to form as another habit. So sitting on my couch here in my office and just closing my eyes in the dark, I can do that for a little bit, and then it's just thoughts start running through and I'm thinking about everything. That moment when I'm praying, I'm able to just kind of isolate myself. And for whatever reason, the shower has been that place for me. And again, it's weird, but I don't give a shit what's weird. I give a shit about what works. And so for me, it really has again transformed my mentality.
So cool. I not not the same thing, but when you said showers, like, oh my gosh. One of my habits, and I wouldn't say that this was necessarily like the game changer for me, but when you said that, I was like, oh, that's when I listen to because I follow a lot of different people on social media, on YouTube, and not influencers. Like, I don't give a shit what they think that I should wear or whatever. But like I listen to Gary Vee. I listen to like Brenna Burchard. Sometimes I'll have my growth day app on in the shower and listen to like the Daily Fire. But yeah, it's just, I'm going to be in there anyway. And I've got one of those little, it's supposed to be like a beer can holder, but I stick my phone in it. I do have to make sure that like I turn it around the other way. So just in case, like no cameras open, I don't go live on any like apps or anything. Could you imagine? I would literally die. But see, but something like that is so simple to take, rewind, going back to the place where it was so difficult when I was at my worst. It was so difficult to even begin to think about how I would carve time in my day to bring in a new habit with all the other stuff I was already doing. Mind you, what I was doing wasn't working for me. So to think about how to bring something in that could be positive, I wouldn't even know how or when to squeeze it in. You're going to be in the shower anyway, right? You might be in your car driving anyway. I don't care if it's a 5-minute drive. You can make use of that time in a way that's going to better serve you, right? And
Mhm.
that's what I heard when you talk about praying in the shower. I just thought it was really interesting. And I think it's good to connect those dots. For me, probably the habit that changed the game. No, that is easy. I know which one it is. I'm like, oh, there's other habits that came first, but the habit that has most changed the game is this one. And it came about within like the last year or so. I'm lucky now that I'm really, really close with my brother. He's not quite 3 years younger than me. Um, two totally different people, mind you. Shocker. But he and I have had some really phenomenal conversations over the last couple of years. I'd had the opportunity to help take care of my nephew and some family things were going on for him. And in a fairly recent conversation, he had said something as I was sharing about some things I was struggling with like our childhood and some of that trauma and stuff. And he was like, when do you think, and I'm paraphrasing, but like when do you think you'll be at a point where that's just something that happened and it's not influencing or controlling your here and now, you know? And the first time he said it, I was like, excuse me. Who are you talking to? Do we not remember what happened, the impact it had? It tore, like all the stuff, right? I got into a defensive state right away. But then pretty soon thereafter, I connected what he said with some things I've been working on with my business coach. And the epiphany was this. And there's some other thought leaders that have done some trainings on this kind of stuff, but we can't control our first thought. The second thought that comes into our head, we can't.
Mhm.
So I can't control XYZ that happened, however many years ago. I might have life events now that are triggering or remind me of stuff or make me feel a certain kind of way. That might happen. In the moment, I can take those thoughts that are maybe limiting beliefs that I was taught as a child, maybe doubts or fears that I have today. As those thoughts come into my mind, I'm now at a point with my mindset and my personal training. As soon as that negative thing is there, I recognize it. I ask myself why I'm having it and where it comes from. And then I think something different. And the extent that it's changed me in my life is like bananas. It's changed my business. The people that have been able to work with me in the last couple of years that I've been doing it, in my leadership consultation, like training programs and students and stuff, next level. Me figuring that out and then being able to teach other people how to do it. It's, yeah, that's probably the habit that has been the game changer. And then little stuff like, just not fueling my body with crap. Um, unlike last night, like I already shared with you, Ben and Jerry still has a place. Okay.
We
We'll leave.
all have that one vice, and it is what it is, but it's monitoring it, right?
Yes. Yeah. Um, but I think that's maybe where the magic is when, whether it's a location that anchors you for a habit, whether it's retraining your brain that when you're going a certain direction, you can then, you know, um, course correct yourself, right? Man, I mean, as an ag teacher, we do that all the time in the classroom.
Mhm.
We do that all the time for our students. And to think about some of the positive habits that I think we have in the profession, if we could take a step back and realize the way we modify for students, the way that we adjust lesson plans, the way that we can course correct in the moment, we could use those same skill sets, those same habits, but apply them to ourselves first. I mean, I think you would see the profession booming in um, energy and aliveness and enthusiasm, right? I don't think it has to be, when we talk about habits and routines, it doesn't have to be something that's overly complicated. It can be
Mhm.
so, so simple, but we're hardwired to make it complicated,
100%, and that's the powerful message right there, Colleen, that you're talking about is it's not an ag teacher specific habit or habits or routines that we form. It's those personal ones that help you. And I'm not saying that like mine are correct or yours are correct. You got to find out what works for you. But if you want to see night and day, and I we talked about this before we hit record, but like for you young teachers out there, or maybe even some of you veterans, when I started student teaching in spring of 2016, maybe 17, I can't remember. It was I was a spring semester initial student teacher. I had made a commitment to, I had some night classes, but because I was still doing the credential program, but most of that stuff was done. So I had made a commitment and asked the master teachers there that I was working under, who were incredible people, mind you, um, if I could stay longer because I wanted to gain as much experience and get as used to that whole 8 to 3 experience or 7 to 3 experience as I could. So I definitely spent a lot more days, full days there than I did half days, which I wasn't working full time or half part time or whatever. Not everybody had that opportunity. Um, but when my day would start, I think they started school at Central at like 7:20, and it was kind of out in BFE, like West Fresno. It was a poke to get to. And so I'd wake up, take a shower, eat some shitty sugary breakfast, probably cereal, waffles, something along those lines. Drink way more coffee than was probably good for my body, and then drive out there, spend half a day, the day, whatever that day looked like. On my way home, usually stop somewhere, pick up a burrito that I couldn't afford anyways because I shouldn't have been eating out. Pick up a burrito, stop at the liquor store, grab three tall boys or a $5 bottle of wine, go home, sit in the chair, eat my food, and basically drink until I fell asleep. Like that was how I led into becoming an ag teacher. So in a classroom, I'm this other person, right? This figure that's supposed to be teaching our generation of students. Behind the scenes, I wouldn't call myself a borderline alcoholic because I could just kind of I wasn't addicted, I guess you could say. But that's how you fucking operate on your off time. Like, was your life that bad, Corey? And so, and this carried through. This carried through to teaching. I wasn't drinking every night, but I was drinking quite a bit. I sure as shit wasn't eating good food. And on the weekends, you could literally find me posted up in front of the TV with a cup of coffee, and I'd play video games all fucking day, all Saturday, all Sunday. Didn't want to do anything, didn't get any chores, nothing done other than maybe laundry or whatever was a necessity.
Mhm.
Wasn't doing it. I go back to that part of making my bed. That was step one. After looking in the mirror and not liking what I saw and hitting that, hypothetical rock bottom for me, that was step one. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, I have control over this. I can make my bed every day. Next step, let's start going to the gym. I'm a morning person. I wake up early regardless, not 3:30 early, like naturally. Now somewhat I do. But going to the gym before work, holy shit, totally different feel. Like I felt energized. I felt good. Like what else can I do? And from
Yes.
there, it's like you start picking up other habits. And again, that whole what else can I do?
Yes.
So started meal prepping on Sundays. Now I had no no idea how to meal prep correctly, so you can ask any of my coworkers at Madeira. But this is TMI. But don't go into the bathroom after me after lunch, right? Like that's horrible, but that's the truth, and I hope they get a chuckle out of it because that's the cold hard truth. But I was making the effort, right? It was another thing that I had developed, and like I'm gonna eat this meal instead of going down the street to get tacos or a hamburger or whatever. And so, you look at what I do today. I wake up early, I drink my hydration drink, I go to the gym, I come home, I take my shower and pray. And then when I get home from work, now I have some more responsibilities with a young child. But after I pray in the shower that I take at night, I get up and I turn the water to as cold as it'll go. I live in Idaho. Like it's 15 degrees outside today. It's fucking cold. But I stand under there for at least 2 minutes. And that's the last thing I want to do, but I do it. And
Mhm.
there's been times I bitched out on it, and those times I bitched out, I feel like crap. I don't sleep well.
Mhm.
It's helped me more mentally than physically. You could probably have a whole episode on cold showers, to be honest. But then doing that, reading 10 pages a day, something I struggle with because I'm not a good reader. But doing that, just these certain things that you develop, and you're like, okay, what else can I do? You made a comment about self belief. Self belief starts with doing those things. Confidence starts with doing those things. I became a better teacher. I became a better person, friend, partner when I made the decision to adjust my habits and do things that I knew would benefit me opposed to the alternative.
Yeah. I started digging around because as you're talking, I'm thinking how to make this actionable, right? For people that are listening. There's because I'm sitting at my desk, so I have a couple of them nearby, but there were a couple books that I just wanted to mention. If you're someone that wants to like take that leap or at least dip your toe in, start expanding your mindset a little bit, there's a couple of books that I think are really helpful. The first one, it's called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And although it's from the premise of like kind of entrepreneurship, the compound effect works for anything, right? Your efforts towards nutrition, health and fitness. The compound effect of you didn't just make your bed once, you've made your bed every day for the last 2 years, right? Since you started that habit. The compound effect is probably immeasurable at this point based on the other habits that it's caused you to start, right? I love that one. Another one that's pretty cool is called The Four Tendencies. And this one talks about different, like the 4 different personality profiles that reveal how to make your life better and other people's lives better too. And it's interesting. There's on the back, it says there's the upholders, the obligers, the rebels, and the questioner. I feel like we're in that rebel circle maybe right now, which is kind of fun. I think it's helpful to know whatever life phase that we're in. There are maybe natural tendencies that we live life with, and then there's tendencies that we show up in our work world with too. And knowing which one you are, and then where the folks that you're surrounded by all the time, where they are, it can help make things, I think, feasible, easier, smoother sailing. And then one last one is called Atomic Habits,
Yes,
right?
that's a good one.
Phenomenal life hack, I would say. I love the smell of books and touching paper, but I get the most done when I'm listening to books like on Audible. So if you want to do some personal development, some mindset expansion, I don't care what app it is, but pick a book in the realm of personal development, personal growth, get it on audio, and it could be 5 minutes a day, right? When you're in the car, first 5 minutes of your prep period, like you decide when it is, but I mean, make it easy, because it's simple to do, it's simple not to do, right?
Mhm.
You've got to take that first step, and making it a habit of putting good information in. I don't know if it's a bad habit, but it's definitely a guilty pleasure. I mean, and TV shouldn't be guilty, but I feel guilty. I used to waste a lot of time watching reality TV. There's not a show on Bravo that I couldn't tell you the entire plot line, every storyline, every housewife. I know them all like inside and out, right? But when I was working with my business coach, trying to reach some different goals and benchmarks this last year, I realized how much time, when I just didn't feel like, right? I didn't feel like doing certain things, or I wasn't motivated to do certain things, I would just get sucked into, oh, well, just 30 minutes. I'm going to watch one episode. And I would waste so much time watching TV, avoiding the work that was actually going to get me where I wanted to go. And now, just in the last few months, I probably only watch like an hour of TV per week, because if I'm consuming any type of entertainment, it's on YouTube, but it's like Gary V, like thought leader kind of people. It's other entrepreneurs. It's people teaching me how to do stuff better, faster. Or it's like mindset, personal growth, development stuff. If I'm cleaning the kitchen, that's what I have on. That's been a good shift too.
How embarrassing is that? Is that what we call self-help?
I know. Like
That's
it's a
worth
weak
judging.
thing. Yeah, right?
It's
Like,
it's personal development is what it
yeah.
is. And to be honest, like you don't have to screw with like everybody's ideas. You can disagree with them, but just hearing different ideas, different ways, perspectives, different things that you can implement, right? That is what changes the game. And to your point with the YouTube, with podcasts and whatnot, if you listen to some of these people, you're going to learn things that and a different way of thinking. And it's probably closer to the way that you should be thinking or want to be thinking in order to be as successful as possible in your realm.
Right. Right.
I'm gonna add
So
a book to your list too, by the way.
yeah,
Sorry.
oh,
I'm
please.
cutting in. Chop
No.
Wood, Carry Water by what's his name? Joshua Medcalf.
Yeah.
So funny story. I think he'll probably listen to this episode, but I this is my number one book.
Mhm.
Like easy read, super great story behind like into what goes into it and the idea of it.
Yeah.
So somebody texted me, a good friend of mine texted me the other day and asked, hey, I needed another book to read. What are some recommendations? And I recommend this one to everybody who hasn't read it. Again, this is number one on my list. And I was like, dude, Chop Wood, Carry Water. Well, I didn't put who it was by. Well, apparently there's another Chop Wood, Carry Water out there. And so he bought that one and started reading it. And he's like, bro, this book's a trip. And I'm like, I mean, I didn't think it was a trip. I thought it was pretty straightforward. And come to find out, he had a different one. But he feedback. It's a good book, I guess. So I'm gonna have to read it by accident. But no, this book has really changed perspective for me and is about the idea of how habits help create the person you want to be. And I I think people that read this will get something out of it. So, anyways, I'm gonna shut up because I want to hear about your habits.
Oh no, you're good. I got so excited because one of my favorite trainers of all time, Wallace Caesar, his recent like lifting program is called Chop Wood Carry Water. He references in his training that book, like it was all built off of it. So when you held it up, I was like, oh my God. I was fangirling for a second, I got real excited.
It's a great book.
Yeah, I just I think something that held me back for a really long time, um, especially after becoming a mom, being at the point where I was kind of in those what I would call like teen years of ag teaching, where you're like past year 5, getting closer to year 10. You've kind of got a groove. You figured some stuff out about the way the world works within the profession, but you're not always at the place where you want to be, or you think, I should, right? I was shooting on myself for so long. I should have done this by now. I should have earned this accomplishment by now, right? And what held me back is that I would want to go from 0 to 60 like that. I am not patient. If I decide I want something, I want it right then. If
Mhm.
I decide I want something to happen, it needs to happen today. Like I'm pulling the trigger, I'm impulsive. I've decided that's it. I don't second guess myself once I decide to go in on something. And as that relates to habits within ag teaching, personal habits as an ag teacher, when I was at my lowest, it felt like Mount Everest in front of me. When in reality, as soon as I started deconstructing down into 5 or 20-minute increments, right? Like I can listen to 5 minutes of a podcast in the shower. I can squeeze in 20 minutes of moving my body every single day. Maybe it's a walk up to the office and back. That wouldn't take 20 minutes, but it counts. It goes towards, right? You don't have to do it all in a row. People freak out when they hear someone like works out for an hour every day. Do you realize what is that? An hour out of your day is like whatever percent of time. It's insane to me, the amount of time that we have, but then we put it up on a pedestal like it's insurmountable, it's not reachable, it's impossible. And if we would just take a deep breath and realize like we can do things, we can do hard things, and we can do things in smaller increments, but it compounds over time. The more that we do it, the impact of it compounds over time. That's the important part. To me, it's less important, like you said, whatever somebody decides, their bad habits are that they want to get rid of, the good habits that they want to take on, doesn't matter what they are. What I care more about is, can you employ those in a way that's sustainable so that you're compounding your efforts over time? That's how you become that version of yourself that you're talking about. And so I would just say, because obviously I'm going to speak more towards the female ag teachers. That's the experience that I identify with, right? But to to I'll say this first, because it's where I'm at. To the female ag teachers married with kids, um, to the female ag teachers that don't feel good in their own skin, that feel judgment on a daily basis from yourself and from others, because we know that it's both. Deconstruct your day. Give yourself 5 minutes. I like what you do. What if it was 5 minutes when you wake up in the morning? Gratitude. 5 minutes of gratitude. You can have gratitude while you're brushing your teeth. You can have gratitude in the shower. 5 minutes of gratitude. What if you added on to that 5 minutes of strategizing your day, right? What if you added on 5 minutes of, and then just start inserting, right? It doesn't have to be an hour of working out, 2 hours of meal prep, an hour of, XYZ podcast, right? Like, break it down into what's manageable. But the idea of waking up a little bit earlier so that you can give yourself the time to do the things that are going to actually help you feel better so you can perform better, it's worth it. And funny story, since we were talking about habits, and I think I've told you this story before, I never used to be a morning person. I was a complete witch with a capital B. My husband can confirm this. He's actually in the other room, so he might poke his head around when he hears me say this. I'm still not always the nicest if I'm in my zone of like doing my thing by myself, but I was always a night owl, never a morning person. A year ago, almost to the day, because I looked at my calendar, I was visiting a friend down south, down in the Hanford, Tulare vicinity. I was going to be working with his students the next day on some FFA stuff. And said friend said, "Hey, I'm going to the gym in the morning. Do you want to come with me?" And I said, "Excuse me, what time would that be?" Because I know it's going to be before you're supposed to be at school. Long story short, my friend took me to a body combat class. The trainer whooped my ass in the best way. But we had to leave his house at 4:15 to get there in time for the 5 o'clock class to start. When it was done, I mean, the energy level, like, if people think I'm extra on a regular day, like, you should have seen me after this class. There was nothing I couldn't do. I felt like I could leap off a 100-foot building, spread wings and fly. That's how good I felt. And then as I started thinking about it on the drive home, I'm like, wait, if I feel that good working out in the morning, like, yeah, did it suck getting up early? Sure. But for how good I felt after, I wanted more of that so bad. I'm telling you, I have not slept in a day since then. Not a day. And then fast forward when our coaching team decided to start implementing these early morning work sessions where we can get on Zoom, ask questions, like work our businesses together in real time. Yeah, a lot of them live in Idaho and Iowa and places that are like on a different time zone than me. It's 5 a.m. for them. It's 3 a.m. for me. I know I'm crazy, but I do it because I feel better doing that than when I don't. And so, yeah, I go to bed earlier. I take naps sometimes when I want to, need to. I'm also self-employed, so I can do that when I feel like it. I'm not on someone else's schedule. But I had to share that story because had I not worked out that one morning, I never would have. I never would have like woken myself up at 4 to go to somebody else's gym. Like,
It's like an aha moment for you.
holy Jesus, yeah.
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 One of the things you said, Colleen, and we talked about it earlier, but the gratitude piece, again, can't stress enough how important that piece is. And I know that you've seen the same transformation with it that I have. But there's something I didn't mention earlier that I do, and I've done this uh, pretty much since my wife and I have lived together, even we were dating. Before I leave for work every morning, I tell her I love her and give her a kiss. And now with my baby girl, I do the same. and I'm so thankful for them, because what if I don't fucking come home tonight? You know what I mean? Like, what message does that send to the universe? What message does that send to them? How do I feel
Mhm.
about that type of situation? Not to like somber the mood here, but
No,
that's
not
such an important piece to me, and to what, even if maybe we had a disagreement, or I'm in a hurry, which is most days, because I have a knack for being like right on time, 1 minute before work starts, kind of thing. But that is so important. If there's a way to take that time, and just make sure that you understand that nothing is more important than those people in your life, and just letting them know that you're grateful for them and that you love them, and making sure that you're not just telling them that you're showing them that. And again, putting that stuff out to the universe. This isn't hippie shit. This is real.
yes.
That gratitude piece, it comes back. There's some type of karma out there that really, has done me well, since I have taken the time to be grateful for just another opportunity to be with these people, to do what we do, to record this episode,
Yeah.
and to share our experiences and our knowledge with other people, who maybe this may be the fucking key that changes things for somebody. Think
Yes.
about the power of that.
Yeah.
That's just such a, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but one day
Yeah.
other people listening will see that,
Well,
and it will make
because
sense.
what you focus on expands, right? There's a cool exercise we've done at some of our coaching conferences, and I'll do it right now just for fun. So be ready to like pause this, whoever whoever it is that's watching, right? So right now I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, whatever room that you're sitting in, or if it's your car, it doesn't matter. I want you to look around you, focus on, I want you to find as many things as you can that are red and just count them in your head. Look for everything red. I think I found like 5. Okay, beautiful. How many things in your room are blue? You don't know because it's not what you were looking for, right? And so to your point, if we are starting and or ending our day, or finding some point of our day where we are focused from a place of gratitude, even on the worst day of your entire life, there is still like goodness happening for you, right? Doesn't mean that that bad thing is the good thing, but there's still goodness happening. There's still things that we can be grateful for. Even if you're in a really stressful situation at work, like what is it that you can be grateful for, that you can really, what you're doing is you're shifting your mindset. We know that shit happens. We know that really horrible things are going to happen in life. People get sick. We lose loved ones. There's war all over the planet right now, literally like in real time happening. But there's still a lot of good happening too. And it doesn't mean we're ignoring the bad, or we're not addressing it, or we're not dealing with it. It just means from a personal mindset, like growth and expansion standpoint, that if you would focus on gratitude first, you're training your brain to find the good. Instead of focusing on challenges and problems, you're focusing on what you have, which then puts you in a mindset of focusing on solutions, focusing on what you can do. And then you get yourself into a doing mode. As soon as you're in action, being in action creates momentum. When you're in momentum, you feel motivated to do more of that because it feels good. And all of that can start from one little habit. It's just like, that's why I love this stuff.
Me too. And I think and this is my fault, but we we can go down some fucking rabbit holes.
I
That's
know.
what I like. But to your point, every experience in your life, good or bad, is still experience,
Mhm.
and being grateful for that, and in these opportunities that you get daily. Like, how many people would love to be able to wake up and go to work, and do what you do on a daily basis? Because here's the thing, we're all in search of a purpose in our life. Ag teachers have found a purpose.
Yeah.
Like, think about how powerful that is. There's so many people that are just plugging numbers in at a desk, that they hate their jobs, they hate their life, and that permeates into every aspect of their life. Their relationships with everybody, their just their overall well-being. You have a purpose, and think about being able to be a better version of yourself through habits, through um, you know, oh, I'm losing my train of thought, but through doing these daily things, and especially gratitude being one of them, and realizing you're making an impact on the world. Like, you are helping students transform their lives. That is incredible. What if we could do that in all areas of your life? What if you could do that for yourself, and actually realize not only are you serving that purpose for other people, but for yourself. You have a, I'm going to refer to my business here a little bit, but a legacy to leave behind. Like,
Yeah.
make that the best you can. You don't know if you get you don't know if you get another shot at this thing. So why not do it now? Why not be the best you now and invest a little bit of time in your day to these habits and routines? That's the word I was looking for, that are going to help transform you into the person that you want to be.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Before we get too long on the tooth, any last thoughts, takeaways, or action steps before we close this one out?
Yeah. I mean, just again, that one habit that you start with is ground zero,
Mhm.
and that's okay. Like, I think, we talked about New Year's resolutions a few weeks ago being the new year and whatever. And January 12th is National Quitters Day, and
Yep.
we're on the 13th. So that was yesterday. Um, what is it that's going to allow you to not quit? What is going to allow you to, what decision is it that you're going to make that's going to form that one stupid, simple habit that could, again, grow into all of these good habits, and transform your entire life, right? Because as people, to your point earlier, we're impatient. But there's a term I heard, it's aggressive patience.
Oh, yeah.
Aggressive patience is just executing on these daily tasks every single day, or doing that one task every single day that snowballs into a second and a third, right? And now all of a sudden you're doing multiple tasks over time. I mean, the things I'm doing now, I wasn't doing all of them 2 years ago. I started with two of them or three of them, or one of them, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And it's, again, things I've picked up along the way. The confidence, the self belief, the ability to become an even better ag teacher, to become a better person, lies within the habits and routines that you form. You do not have to just stop one day and change it all. That's not how this works, because it's not sustainable. But what is sustainable is when you condition yourself to be able to do one for a period of time, and now a second one and a third one. The next thing you know, you're like, holy shit, how many people are doing what I do? That's the arrogance that I think people see from one end, is like, Cory and Colleen, they think they're so much better. No, I don't think I'm better than you, because I've been in that fucking position. I've been there. And now I have chosen a different life through forming these routines. And
Yes.
trust me, if I can do it, you can do it, anybody can do it.
Yep.
Because I'm not geared that way naturally. It takes work. It does. But like 2 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day, you could do that. Think about all the things you're wasting time on, hone those in to some better, more productive things, and watch everything change for you.
Yep.
And I promise you that.
Yep. So I'll follow up and help close out with this. So if you all are listening to what Cory's saying, and you're gonna what we're asking you to do is this: choose one thing to start. Okay. Choose one habit that you are going to start implementing. And in order to start implementing that one habit, choose the anchor point or the triggering action that comes before it. And what I mean is this, right? At the beginning of this episode, Cory was talking about praying in the shower. That works for him. That is his anchoring place. When he is in the shower, his mind now subconsciously is telling himself, okay, we're going to do all the shower things. And we're also going to be in a space of prayer and gratitude, right? What is your anchoring place, or what is your trigger? Think about it like an alarm. When your alarm goes off in the morning, a lot of you press snooze 7, 8, 9 times. Okay. Some of you jump out of bed. Doesn't matter which one, but you've conditioned yourself to do either thing. So find a way to set, excuse me, find a way to set a quote unquote alarm in your life for this one habit that you're going to start doing. Maybe it is when you come home, instead of racing inside, sit in your car in quiet for 2 minutes and do a release meditation, letting go of whatever's happened with the day. So you're not bringing it in with you when you go inside to your home. And I don't care who you live with and spend your time with, right? 2 minutes, that 2-minute habit could be the game changer between letting the rest of life infiltrate your home space and then impact what's happening there. And then you actually being able to show up as a leader and the highest version of yourself, surrounded by the people that matter most in your life, right? So you're going to choose the habit based on what Cory's saying. And then based on what I'm saying, I need you to find a trigger, right? A trigger that's going to remind you to do the thing, because you've got to do this for at least 21 days to implement a new habit. And then we can talk on a different day and time about how to really turn that into more of a routine, right? So choose your thing, choose your trigger or your alarm in your life, and come back in 21 days and tell us what you did and how it made you feel.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and we'll be seeing you next Monday.